Welcome back to Talking High Performance with Belle. I've been thinking a lot lately about why so many successful people look and feel exhausted. Not tired because they've had a big week and not tired because they've had a few late nights. But I mean a deeper sense of exhaustion, the kind where you feel like you're constantly running but never quite arriving at your destination. The kind where you find yourself wondering, why am I working so hard but feeling so disconnected from myself? And it's a conversation I've been having more and more with my clients lately, more than ever before. People who are on paper doing all the right things. They've built successful careers. They're raising great kids. They're supporting their partners and they're showing up for their friends. They're contributing to their communities. And from the outside, everything looks good. Yet underneath, many of them are carrying a weight they can't explain. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that what they're carrying isn't actually their own. It's expectations. It could be the expectations of other people, expectations of society. It could be expectations they've carried for years without even stopping to question if they actually agree with them or if they just do them because it's what they've always done. Because if you think about it, from the moment we're born, we're given a picture of how our life is supposed to look. We're told what success should look like. We're told what career we should take in some situations, what a good relationship looks like, what good parenting should look like. We're told what to wear. We're told where we should live, what school our kids should go to, how often we should be working, even in some cases, how many kids we should have, how much money we should be earning, what exercise should look like, what foods we should eat, how our home should look, what our holidays could be like. And all of these things start to build up and they create expectations. Most of us don't consciously sign up to them. We absorb them in the background. We absorb them slowly, quietly. We reflect on them or we don't reflect on them. And then one day we wake up and we realize we're running a race that we never intentionally chose. And I remember years ago when I was running a business and raising my kids, I was trying to be everything for everyone. And I believed that if I just worked harder or became a little more organized or pushed a little more, eventually it'd lead to a place where everything felt like it was under control. But it didn't. And I'm sure many people listening can relate to that. It's a belief that if you can just get through the week or the month or the season, then somehow life just magically settles down. But what I discovered was that there's always another expectation waiting, another commitment. It could be another responsibility, something that's come up that we didn't anticipate, something that needed my attention. And what I realized was no one was actually asking for me to carry all of it. I was choosing to do it myself. A lot of it was coming from me. And I put a lot of these expectations on myself over the years, and to a certain point it had worked until it didn't. And so I learned that in order for me to live a life that I was passionate about, I had to start doing things differently. I didn't have to carry everything that I was carrying. And asking for help was hard. And somehow to me, I thought it meant I wasn't coping. And I see this everywhere now, and I see it more than ever now. People carrying these burdens or their expectations that are not theirs, especially high performers. They're people who care deeply, people who are really ambitious, people that want to do well, and people that want to make a difference. But they can't get to their goals because of the expectations holding them back. And a lot of the time, they're really generous people. They're thoughtful. They want to help. They want to do things and tweak things and make them better, and they care. And the challenge is that somewhere along the way, caring turned into carrying. And those two things are really different. You can care deeply about people without carrying responsibility for everything in their lives. You can support people without solving every problem. And you can love people without sacrificing yourself or what's important to you. But many of us blur the lines. And that's where it becomes difficult. And before long, we find ourselves exhausted from expectation. And it's not because we're weak, and it's not because we're incapable. It's because we're carrying things that were never ours to carry in the first place. And I recently had a conversation with a client who was thinking about a career change. And when she looked at it, everything looked really good. The title was impressive. The salary was great, something that she'd been aiming for. And people admired her for what she'd achieved. But every Sunday afternoon, she felt this knot in her stomach. And as we explored it further, she said something interesting that really stuck. She said she couldn't work out why she wasn't happy because she's achieved everything she's wanted to. And we had to really dig deeper. And what became clear was that she'd achieved everything she'd been told to want. And when she got there, she realized it's not necessarily what she wanted, and it's not the same thing. So there's a big difference between building a life that looks successful and building a life that looks aligned. You know, one may earn applause, but the other one creates fulfillment. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, especially myself in the past. So we spend years following expectations, and then we wonder why we feel disconnected. And I experienced this a lot in my optical stores. The money was coming easily month by month for the effort that was being put in, but it wasn't fulfilling. And the same thing shows up in parenting. I see parents putting enormous pressure on themselves, pressure to get it right, pressure to create every opportunity for their kids, pressure to make sure they say the right things, do the right things. And to a certain extent, I even put that pressure on myself, but I have to realize and go, this is what's aligned and this is not what's aligned. And when it comes to parenting, when it comes to living, sometimes that list can never end. And social media and things like that don't help, because now we're not only comparing ourselves to our neighbors or our friends or the school mums, but we're also comparing ourselves to thousands of carefully curated highlights every day through Instagram and through Facebook. And it can become exhausting. And it's no wonder that many people feel like they're falling short, because the benchmark keeps moving. And that's why this conversation is really important, because the people-pleasing tax isn't simply about saying yes when you want to say no. It's much deeper than that. It's about the cost of living according to expectations that don't belong to you. It's about the cost of constantly looking outside of yourself for permission when the answers are inside. And it's the cost of building a life based on what you think you should do rather than what matters to you. So one of the most powerful questions I want you to ask yourself is, what is it that you actually want? Not what makes sense, not what society expects of you, not what looks good, but what is it that you actually want? And it's amazing how many people struggle to answer that, because they've never thought about it that way. And it's not because they don't have dreams. It's because they've spent so long responding to everyone else, or to what society expects, or to the expectations of others, that they no longer know what they want anymore. And it's one of the biggest acts of courage, is deciding that you don't need to live according to somebody else's definition of success. You get to pick a life that's aligned to you. And that's really, really important. You don't need somebody else's approval to live a life that you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live it. Not your family, not your friends, not your partner, not society, but you. So this week, I'd love you to spend a little time reflecting. Where are you carrying expectations that don't belong to you? Where are you maybe saying yes because you genuinely want to? And where are you saying yes because you're worried about disappointing someone? So where are you building a life that feels aligned, and where is there room to improve? Where is there room to look at it and go, I think I need to do something a little bit different here? Because high performance isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more intentional. And it's about having that courage to decide what matters most to you, and then having the discipline to protect it. So thank you for joining me today for another episode of Talking High Performance with Bel. If this episode resonated with you, share it with somebody who needs to hear this message today. And until next time, live a successful, purposeful, and fully charged life every day. Your coach, Bel.